Good evening, Who Dat Nation, and happy Wednesday on a Thursday to our Bayou Blitz family. Yeah, that's right. Your Bayou Blitz podcast has flexed our power over the space-time continuum and moved your Wednesday into Thursday. And we not only did that, we opened up the multiverse to another of your hopefully favorite Saints podcasts. And with all my Marvel references off the top of my head out of the way, with that, I am Bob Rose. He is Brendan Boylan. He is Alan Ulrich. Excuse me, and we are you. Right, you've been called worse.
This is very true.
And we give you the Under the Bayou Blitz Dome tonight. That's right. We are blending both shows. Gentlemen, how we doing tonight?
Good.
I'm doing fine.
Good.
Hopefully everybody is staying warm, safe, and prepared with whatever is to come. That's kind of what we were talking about. Who knows? I think every day it's a different forecast. Bob, I know you just dealt with some cold and whatnot, so hopefully, knock on wood, they don't have you going through that again. I know here they've already made some adjustments to like airports and flying. You know, Charlotte's one of the top, I think it's like top 6 airports in the U.S. So they've already made some adjustments to the airport. One of the professional sporting events, I actually think it was the NBA, moved up the tip time on Saturday so teams could get out of the city before the storm comes. So we'll see. I've definitely been a part of storms that have been overhyped and that under-delivered. But you never want to be too careful there at home, right? The worst thing to do is be under-prepared for something that could knock your power out for a long time. So I just hope everybody's healthy, well, and prepared for whatever may come over the weekend.
Well, you know what? And who the hell knows what they're going to name this storm? Super blizzard, Isaac, or whatever. To me, only hurricanes should be named. That's a get off of my lawn conversation for another day. But as we're waiting for the winter forecast to come in, and like Brendan and Alan said, hopefully y'all are going to stay safe and you're preparing for whatever comes, for better or worse. We're indifferent. But while you're waiting for this winter storm to come, why not book a trip to the Bahamas? Why not do so and benefit a great charity at the same time? We at the Bayou Blitz, we are very proud to continue to promote a site called Get Checked or Check Out. Their site is tcynow.org. Please go check it out. Donate a little bit. Hopefully you are never in need of their services, but if you are, Get Checked or Check Out is a site set in place by our good friend Shireen a number of years ago. The site's focus is to help guide patients and their families who have received a negative medical diagnosis. Get Checked or Check Out assisted in over 2,500 cases during 2025. We're hoping to significantly increase that number this year. So please check out their website at tcynow.org. Donate a little bit. Check out whatever you need to check out. But as I said, they're a charitable organization, and their biggest fundraiser during the course of the year is the foundation's annual Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise. This year's cruise, the 2026 cruise, is going to set sail on March 26th and going to dock back home, for those of us that choose on coming home, on Monday, March 30th. That's Thursday, March 26th through Monday, March 30th. Now, there are 2 new things in place this year. The arrival destination. Last few years have been in Cozumel, Mexico. Had a blast there last year. This year, it is going to the tropical Bahamas. So you get to join all your fellow fans for an unforgettable weekend in the tropical Bahamas. And the departure site is also different. We depart this year from Jacksonville, Florida. Now, if you're coming from New Orleans or the Gulf Coast region, there are packages that are set in place, group packages, where you can travel together from New Orleans to Jacksonville, Florida. Reach out to me if you need any more details on that. But like I said, you're leaving from Jacksonville, Florida on Thursday, March 26th. We're going to hang out in the tropical Bahamas. We're going to visit the brand new Celebration Key Island as well as Nassau with Saints legends Michael Lewis, Tyrone Hughes, Courtney Roby, and Delvin Breaux. Those are the 4 that are confirmed. We're waiting for confirmation on others, but you're going to have a blast with these guys and their families. We're going to engage in beach Olympic activities together with each Saints player being a team captain. We're going to compete in an intense but very fun putt-putt golf tournament with each Saint as a team captain. We're going to hang out together. We're eating our dinners together separately, enjoying game nights, trivia, Q&A sessions with the players. So we're going to be partying the days and nights away all together, but we're going to be doing it for a cause, such a wonderful charity. There's going to be a cocktail contest on the beach, which frankly I'm a little bit scared of, as well as a PJ and a onesie night, karaoke night, other themes. So you can reserve your spot now. All these tickets help raise the needed funds for Get Checked or Check Out. Get a hold of Summer at 7 Seas Travel at 985-788-6584 to book your reservation. Make sure you mention me. Make sure you mention the Bayou Blitz when you do it. She will take care of you. Or you can contact Shireen for any more details. Shireen's the co-founder of Get Checked or Check Out. Her number is 504-305-7563. I know for a fact that there are still cabins available, and we need to sell out of these cabins because every ticket raises much needed funds. Again, Thursday, March 26th through Monday, March 30th. You're hanging out with Saints players. You're hanging out with Saints fans, all of our families. We're getting to know each other. We have our own party rooms. We have our own bars. We have our own dining rooms, our own spots on the beach. All you need to do is book that cabin today, and please reach out to me if you have any more questions or want to hear about my own experiences. But I want to see all new people or a bunch of new people this year. I had such a blast last year, and if you've never been, I guarantee you will too.
Yeah, you don't want to see all new faces. That means people aren't coming back. So
right, that's why I stopped myself.
Yeah, we gotta have some returners. You know, it'd be bad if they saw a trend where it's like, well, the year after Bob came on the boat, we had no returners.
Yeah, right.
Well, last week, guys, we talked about the offense as a season recap. This week, we're gonna kind of open it up to the defense. I guess we'll sprinkle some special teams in here. Or at least the kickers. I don't know how much more than that we can talk about. Bob got so embarrassed when I said special teams, he decided to not show his face to all of you lovely people.
Well, the special teams didn't show up this year, so why should I for that that part of the conversation?
There you go. We'll start with defense. And, you know, it was an interesting start to the season defensively for a lot of reasons, right? There was very quickly a concern at safety, right? The sudden retirement of Tyrann Mathieu, the multiple injuries at the safety position. But I want to start with one player in particular. That's Carl Granderson.
Oh.
What a season for Granderson. Not in like a, whoa, what a season for Carl Granderson, but kind of a, what the hell happened to Carl Granderson? Because he started the year hotter than a pepper sprout, right? He was leading the league in sacks through the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. And then we saw Carl Granderson on the side of milk cartons, missing. Have you seen this man? We'll start with our lovely guest. Alan, what was your assessment of the season as a whole for Carl Granderson? Because it felt for a moment he had turned the corner into being the player that the Saints paid some big time money to all of a sudden being a guy that was missing in action there for a while.
Do you remember Willie Whitehead from the Saints, defensive end?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We've had him on the show.
Carl Granderson's comp should be Willie Whitehead. And I mean that in a positive way, because I think Carl Granderson, this is what you can kind of get from him. They're going to get these, you're going to get a sequence of games, because at the end of the season, he showed up again.
Mm-hmm.
He showed up at the beginning and showed up at the end. And Granderson is a guy, I think, that is more of a rotational player. The longer he's out there, the more likely his limitations are exposed. And you need Carl Grandersons on your team. You need Willie Whitehead players on your team. It's just you can't rely on them for 17 weeks to be a great run stuffer and a great pass rusher, or a great run stuffer or a great pass rusher. He's not a Chase Young. He's not certainly not a Cam Jordan. He's not a Ricky Jackson, a Pat Swilling, Frank Warren. Go through the list of all the great defensive ends or edge rushers the Saints have had in their history. He is definitely a wave player, a guy that you want to come in and take 15, 20, maybe 30 snaps at most in a game. But you don't want to rely on him to be your primary pass rusher, your primary pass disruptor. So I'm not surprised by what you saw out there. I think this is a good system for him. That was a concern that people had about him, that he wasn't going to be a kind of guy that he needed to be in a 4-3 defense. He needed to be the 5 technique. He needed to be the hand on the dirt edge rusher. He's not very good standing up rushing the passer, or he can't stand up and play the run. Well, he showed he can. It's just that I don't think you can rely on him. You can do better opposite a Chase Young, for example. You need someone who's a lot more of a disruptor, pass rusher, who can also play the run as your primary guy, and you can rotate him in to spell Young for a few snaps, to spell whoever your edge rusher is, your elite edge rusher is, for a few snaps. I think that's just how he is. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. You want to have guys like him on your team.
Alan, I think that's an outstanding assessment, and that's actually one of the reasons why I think edge rusher is still a need for the Saints early in this draft, if not with their first round pick, then certainly in day 2. Because whether or not they bring back Cam Jordan, even if they do, and as well as Cam played down the stretch, Cam's still 36 years old.
Yeah.
The end is far closer than the beginning was. So you need somebody, which, and I know we're going to talk about Chase Young here in a few minutes. You need somebody opposite of Chase Young. You need somebody opposite of Chase Young, especially because Chase Young had a breakthrough season. So offenses are going to be paying more attention to him next year. So you need somebody opposite him. Are you going to continue to count on a 36, 37-year-old Cam Jordan? That's a dangerous thing to do. And I think that we saw, to your point, that the Saints can't count on Carl Granderson week in and week out, to produce big numbers and take some of that attention away from Young. So while there's certainly a spot, a role for Carl Granderson in this defense, it should not be an expanded role. It should be a limited. I'm careful not to say. I'm trying to be careful not to say specialized role, because that implies, he's a specialized pass rusher. Your specialized pass rushers get 10, 12 sacks a year typically, and that's not Carl either. Carl is a as you just mentioned, Alan, a rotational piece, a niche. I thought he played the last couple weeks when Nathan Shepard and Brian Bresee were both out. We were worried about what was going to happen up front with the Saints, particularly against the run. And what happened? We saw Cam and Chase continue to rush from the outside very effectively. And we saw them use Carl Granderson on the inside. And, Carl benefited from a lot of one-on-one single team blocking, because you had to bet that with the way Cam and Chase were playing down the stretch, you had to double those two guys. So we would see Carl stunt on the inside, or even just take on guys straight up, from a three-man defensive line spot, and still be able to flourish. That's not the kind of guy that that you talk about doing those kind of things in a specialized role, but completely agree. You don't want him to play any more than 15, 20, 25 snaps a game max.
Yeah. I was just looking at Willie Whitehead's stats while we were talking here, and Whitehead had 24 sacks, 24 and a half sacks for his career. It was an 8-year career. That's not, he had 7 sacks in 99, 5.5 sacks in 2000. That was part of that 66 sack team. He had 5.5 sacks in 2003, and 216 total tackles, 161 solo tackles. That, for a career, that's a solid player. That is a good, solid player on your team. And for Granderson to hit those kind of numbers, consistently as a rotational guy, that's great. That's what you need on the team, because it's a 17-game season. Offenses are now out there for 65, 70 plays. That's a lot to demand on a guy week after week. If you can get 30 snaps out of a guy, just to keep your elite players fresh. So in the fourth quarter, when you need them to make a stop, how many, one-score games are we seeing just in these playoffs alone? Having your elite players fresh late in the fourth quarter, because you can rotate a guy and not see a significant drop-off, man, that's gold. You need that. So, that certainly shouldn't be taken as a criticism of the guy. It just means the Saints still need an edge rusher. The Saints still need to upgrade in that position, because you can't have too many good players rushing the passer.
Yeah, not in today's league. I want to talk about Chase Young, since his name got brought up a good bit there. I think it's funny how quickly the tides can turn for someone. Because early in the season, I want to say it was week, was that 4 or 5, Bob? I don't remember exactly when they played Seattle, but I was in Seattle the Monday after that game, and we were talking about Chase Young, and the bet that we had was Chase going to play more than 50% of the games left, and he did. But I think everyone had a bad taste in their mouth within the Houdat Nation about Chase Young just not being available. We know what kind of player he can be. Right, that's why he was taken number 2 overall. That's why he's gotten opportunity after opportunity, and that's why he earned himself a 3-year extension last year. But, and we say it all the time, availability is the greatest ability. And for a stretch, it felt like, here we go again. Like, Chase can't get on the field. When Chase got on the field, he was really damn good. He's a guy that I think will end up being a Pro Bowl alternate, or at least offered the chance to go to the Pro Bowl as an alternate. You know that doesn't mean anything anymore. Both of you do. But that's the type of season he had for the Saints this year. And I feel a lot better going into this offseason than I did last offseason, at least being able to say we have a guy that has the ability to be an elite pass rusher. Yes, defensive end is still a need. They need somebody opposite. Father Time is undefeated, as you referenced, Bob, with Cameron Jordan turning 36 years old. But let's talk about a guy who, as I said, stepped up. I think showed a lot of people that he deserved that 3-year, $50-something million extension. Played outstanding over the last 6 weeks of the season, even earning a Defensive Player of the Month award, right? Not week, but month award.
I believe so.
In the NFC. He was a guy that, at times, I think was the heartbeat to a defense. which a lot of times we point towards DeMario Davis, we point towards Cameron Jordan, and you saw a little bit of the baton being passed. I won't say all the way, but they saw a little bit of that baton being passed over to a guy who can be a game changer on the defensive side of the ball. How do you guys assess a double-digit sack season for Chase Young?
Bob, you want to go first?
Yeah, I could go first. My nickname for Chase Young the last few years and in the first quarter of this year has been Mr. Almost, because he almost makes a bunch of plays, but doesn't. Was never a finisher. And we talked. I think all three of us talked about Chase this past offseason, particularly after the contract extension. That he flashed a lot of ability, and I, for one, would stop short of calling him a bust, because when I'd go back and watch the film, I just came to the conclusion that he wasn't a finisher. He wasn't a Lawrence Taylor, a Reggie White, T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, one of those guys. And when you draft somebody number 2 overall, you need them to be one of those guys, a Von Miller. And I'm not sitting here saying that Chase Young has moved into that elite stratosphere, because you have to do it for a couple years, at least consecutive, before you're even talked about that way. But the numbers back it up. In 12 games, he had 10 sacks, 10 sacks, 15 quarterback hits, in the mid 30s, high 30s in pressures. All those were the best numbers of his career. I've written it. I might have said it a couple times, but I'm about to say it again. Chase Young is not only the Saints MVP, defensive MVP for 2026. I dare say he's the Saints team MVP. He played that good. He played that good. And he showed himself finally to be a legitimate piece that a defense can build around. And he's only 27, guys. His best football should still be ahead of him. And I think, now coming out of the second straight year of being in a defense with DeMario Davis, with Cam Jordan, guys that mentored him and mentored him in the right way, you're starting to see that sort of rub off. And you just alluded to it, Brendan, when you said, Chase seemed to take more of a leadership role on the field this year. And I think that could only benefit him going forward. He got a lot of double teams down the last back half of the season, and he was beating those double teams very consistently, playing the best run defense of his career. I definitely think at the very least he turned the corner, and he showed him. We're not sitting here talking about the Saints need another edge rusher to bring out the best in Chase Young. The Saints only need another edge rusher now to complement Chase Young. I think that's the best compliment that I can pay him, is he's now, at least for 1 year, become a consistent pass rusher and a consistent threat that makes other quarterbacks worry, that makes other offensive coordinators look at their game plan and say, how can we account for Chase Young? So that's certainly a step in the right direction. I'm so proud of the way Chase played. It's one of the many things that have me excited about this Saints team going into the offseason.
He definitely benefited from Brandon Staley's system. There's another player that we were kind of concerned. Can he play from the stand-up linebacker position, edge rusher, as opposed to putting his hand in the dirt? Well, clearly he can. In fact, he seems to be a lot better playing that way versus playing with his hand in the dirt and trying to rush the passer from a 3-point stance. And I totally agree with you, Bob. I agree with everything you said about him. he impressed me because, like you, I felt he was an almost player too. He was a guy who almost got to the quarterback. He's a guy who almost had made the tackle for the loss. He almost did so many things. Well, this year he did it. And I credit a lot of that to Brandon Staley's scheme.
Yeah.
And also him learning from DeMario and from Cam Jordan. That's something he did not have at almost every stop he had in Washington, in San Francisco. He just never had a guy next to him or a guy that played his position that could help him grow as a player, not as a coach, but as a fellow player, showing him this is what I've learned over the years. It helped me become a better pass rusher, or help me diagnose plays better, what the keys are to read in a play so I know what's coming rather than me reacting to it. I have a much better understanding of this offensive scheme, so I know they're coming to my side. I know how to prepare myself for the play. And, Ricky Jackson was a great player under Wade Phillips' scheme, but he became an even better player once Pat Swilling was on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I think he needs a Pat Swilling on the other side for him. I'm not saying he's Ricky Jackson. Don't misunderstand me. What I'm saying is Ricky Jackson and Pat Swilling together made a lethal pass rushing combination, because offenses had to sit there and think, how do we stop both these guys?
Right.
We can't just stay on one side and move everything away from Young. We now have to deal with another guy coming from the other side. We have to figure out something else, how to stop both of them, just so we can function as an offense. And that's a great problem to have as a defensive coordinator, a terrible problem for the teams to have to deal with.
Wouldn't it be nice if they hit on a draft pick, maybe like a second round pick at a Notre Dame? Wouldn't that have been nice if that had worked out?
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that needs to be investigated one of these days. Not the decision to draft him, but why he didn't work.
Yeah.
Because everything that we just said about Chase Young and everything we've said about edge rushers, he should have worked, but he didn't. So, yeah, you've got to go and find somebody again. And I hear names get thrown around from the draft all the time. But just think about last year's guy, Abdul Carter. That was the top edge rusher in the draft. He was a non-factor this past year with the Giants. And the Giants need an edge rusher. So, yeah, I don't know. Edge rushers are becoming like quarterbacks, how hard it is to find a good one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember when Khalil Mack got traded the first time, and how many people were like, whoa, you're trading just an absolute game changer type of piece. But no, I think you're right. I want to talk, before we get to linebackers, are there any other players on the defensive line? I don't want to skip out on Cameron Jordan having the year that he did and getting the double-digit sacks, kind of like an ageless wonder. Bob, very, very well how much I appreciated Brian Brissy this year. The numbers don't jump off the page. I think the film jumps off the screen at you. I thought he had a really productive year in a system that I didn't think he'd work very well in. Yeah. Proved it to me that he can play in just about any system. Any of those guys you want to give just a quick shout out, or a quick bit of
we talk about Chase's age and being a piece to continue to build this defense around. Brian Brissy fits in that category. Mm-hmm. And I think all three of us on both of our respective shows expressed doubts as to how Brissy, maybe more than any other player that we have mentioned, so far, how is Brissy going to fit in this system? Yep. He's listed as a defensive tackle, but he's certainly not a nose tackle. And is he athletic enough to be the end in a 3-man line? Well, he proved that he has the strength to play in the middle on certain alignments, situations, and that he has the athleticism to continue to make plays as a down lineman in the 3-man front. Alan, you mentioned Frank Warren before. Saints historians or more experienced Saints fans, a lot of the average ones will immediately point to Ricky Jackson, to Pat Swilling, with good reason. But you need guys. Don't forget Frank Warren's in the franchise Hall of Fame for good reason. He had a bunch of double-digit sack years. I think that's the kind of thing that Bresee is capable of with Chase Young, either another year out of Cam Jordan or hitting on an edge rusher as a draft pick. I think Bresee is capable of those kind of numbers, or at least a consistent 8, 10, 11 sack year kind of guy. And Bresee's only headed into his fourth year.
Fourth year, yeah.
So he's still a young piece too. Nathan Shepard, I thought, had a quietly effective year. They need more down linemen, almost as bad as they need another edge rusher. Certainly a big fat guy in the middle, a run stuffer. Something we're going to be talking about ad nauseum as we approach the draft. Alan, you and I were beating the table for it last year and didn't get it. Yeah. So I'm interested to see if they identify that as a need this year.
I think they do, because I think that was part of the reason why we saw so many different defensive linemen line up next to Brian Bresee. You had Nathan Shepard, you had Godshaw, you had the kid from Iowa State. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Christian Boyd, and you had Ridgeway play some. They're trying to find something there. They drafted Brockton last year. He got hurt before they could really see what he could do. But I just feel like Brian Bresee, if you put this is another unfair comparison because he's not Leroy Glover. But Leroy Glover, when he had Norman Hand next to him, the big wiggle, Leroy Glover suddenly became a devastating pass rusher. He already was a good pass rusher, but he became a devastating one because Norman Hand could eat up those double teams. You put a good nose guard or nose tackle next to him, Brian Bresee gets those one-on-one blocks. Brian Bresee is pushing that pocket. And I think that's where you see this dramatic increase, like you saw with Chase Young. You'll see this dramatic increase in Brian Bresee's production because, as you said, Brendan, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't show up in the stat sheets, but when you're watching the games, man, number 90's right there. Man, number 90's making the plays. Man, number 90's tying up people, and he's just almost getting to the quarterback. He's making that quarterback move off his spot, and that's what you want. So if you have a big nose tackle next to Brian Bresee and you get a powerful edge rusher to complement Chase Young, good God, there's no way that quarterback can go. You're really collapsing that pocket, destroying the run, and you're just teeing off on that quarterback, and that makes your secondary better. It makes everything better for you. So, I think the defense is missing those two pieces. You mentioned Frank Warren. There's one other guy I always want to talk about that people forget about, but Wayne Martin, 15 and a half sacks. When Pat Swilling got 17 sacks in 91, Wayne Martin had 15 and a half. Yes. And, people just don't even realize that. They just like, oh, yeah, Pat Swilling was a pass rusher. Pat Swilling got all the sacks. NFC Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. But, man, you had that guy Wayne Martin right there doing all kinds of damage. And I think Brian Bresee can be like that kind of guy. And Wayne Martin played edge rush. edge in a 4-3. He played defensive tackle. They moved him all over the place. Just a really incredibly flexible, great player. But yeah, I think that's the two pieces that are missing in the front seven of this defense that could make such a tremendous difference. And they were good. This defense was good this past year, but they can move up to that scary elite that we're seeing out of Seattle. We've seen out of the 49ers when they're fully healthy, out of Denver. You know, that's the kind of thing that you need to do, take that next step to get into the playoffs and advance the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Brzee and the pick happened, it wasn't a sexy pick. It wasn't a pick where you were going to see a guy who had just crazy numbers, but it was a guy that, and use the word great, Alan, is just versatile, a guy that can be moved around. And, you know, he's a football player's football player. You know, he's just a lunch pail type of guy. And I think that's so rare nowadays to see somebody.
I love his attitude.
Right. We'll just be flexible and do whatever you need to do to win. That's not something you see as much as we used to. Let's go to linebacker. There's really only a handful here to focus on. Bob single-handedly started the Stallbird fan club. But Demario Davis is Demario Davis. If he lost a step, it was a quarter of a step this year, maybe even half a step, but he's still got a tremendous motor. He's still got one of the greatest minds in the league. Unfortunately, there's going to be a time where we're watching film and we just go, what happened? That's just how I've seen it happen way too many times, where it's not a slow decline for a guy like that. It's just one day they're just not the same. And I hope that day is later rather than sooner. But I think the interesting one is Pete Werner out of the conversation. And he has been for the last couple years, right? Is Pete Werner a guy that's going to be a piece of the puzzle moving forward? Or is he expendable? Well, we saw a lot more snaps out of Danny Stutzman as the year went on. Stallbird had some moments, but obviously was a big piece of the special teams for the Saints because of his athletic ability. But Stutzman started to see more and more snaps as the year went on. I'm going to pose this to Bob first because we've talked about Pete Werner a lot since he was drafted, and we did that draft show together. And everybody was a little confused by the pick back then. Have we finally hit a point in time where Pete Werner could realistically be moved in the offseason?
Guys, to me, I think we should be at that point. And I know, I said a lot of and written a lot of negative things about Pete Werner. With Pete Werner, you get two drastically different sides of a coin. If this game were still played in the 1980s, Pete Werner would be a hell of a linebacker. He would be one of the top in the league because linebackers then, they weren't asked to play. Most of them weren't asked to play as much in space. You had specifically carved out roles, for most of the top linebackers in the league, for most of the top inside linebackers. Pete Werner would have been perfect for that because you put him in the tackle box, you run him downhill, you tell him, shoot the gap and go get the running back. There's not a lot that's better than him. You put him in span, opponents know this, and they find ways to capitalize on it week in and week out. You put Werner in space against anybody, and he's lost. He's overmatched athletically, and he's lost intellectually. So I think that's why we saw Danny Stutzman get more snaps down the stretch. I think that's why we saw Isaiah Stallbird get the snaps he did in obvious passing situations, because you absolutely cannot have Pete Werner on the field in those situations. Y'all want to know why Demario Davis's sack numbers were down? Because they had to stop blitzing him, because when they blitzed him, Werner would have to drop back into zones. Well, that's easy. That's easy pickings for any quarterback in the NFL. So to alter that, they would have Davis drop back in zones where he's more than capable, and have Werner, to limit Werner's liability. They had to have Werner blitz, but he wasn't athletic enough to get home. But that limited his liability. I'm not saying Stutzman. Stutzman actually is not that much of a better athlete. He is probably more of a throwback linebacker. And watching Stutzman in zone responsibilities, he seemed to have a better natural feel for zones than what Pete Werner does. So Werner will give you everything he's got, and I commend him for that. Werner will put up a bunch of tackle numbers. He's very good against the run within the tackle box, so I'll give him props for that. But the reason why I think it's time to move on from Pete Werner is because he would have a limited role in not just this defense, but any defense. And the Saints already have guys that can do that role that are younger. Not that Werner is old, but Stutzman and younger, Stallbird younger. You have two guys that can do the things that Pete Werner cannot. And in Stutzman, you have a guy that can also do the same things well that Pete Werner does well on a rookie deal. So, yes, I would like to see Pete Werner move this offseason. You're not going to get anything spectacular for him. 5th round pick, something like that, early to mid day 3. But I just, knowing that Davis is getting up there in years, you need to see more from Danny Stutzman, and you're not going to see that as long as Pete Werner is on this roster. So that's why I think it's time to move on.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. I think that, the problem we have with Pete Werner is what you said before about intellectually. DeMario is able to play at a high level at 36, 37 years old, whatever he is now, because he knows the game so well, and he understands what offenses are trying to do and knows where the play is coming all the time. Werner doesn't know that. Werner's not at that level, and he is in his, 5th year as a pro, 6 years as a pro, something like that?
5th or 6th, yeah.
Yeah, and he is nowhere near what DeMario knows or looks like a 6-year or 5th-year veteran out there that should know just by film study, I can put myself in the right position to take something away from somebody, because I can't beat them athletically, but if I'm in a spot, I don't have to beat them athletically because I'm at the spot where they're going to throw the ball. That's the thing about all offenses today. They throw to spots. They don't throw to players. Okay? So you make plays by outguessing or out knowing what the quarterback is going to do and getting to that spot, getting to that landmark, and take that coverage away. The receiver goes into your area because the offense is designed to go that way. So you get there first. And now that guy's covered. And you've kind of covered up your athletic limitations. Werner chases plays too often, and that's what hurts him, and that's what pops out on film. I think the Saints do need another linebacker. I think they need a veteran linebacker too. To help Stutzman and help Stallbird and help these other guys keep learning. But you can't put a rookie next to or a 2nd-year player next to DeMario right now, because again, that limits DeMario's effectiveness. So if you can find a good veteran linebacker that's inexpensive, they've tried this a couple of times. They tried it with Willie Gay a couple of years ago. They've tried it with a couple other linebackers. But if you can find one and put him next to Davis, it'll help teach the younger guys and also make Davis more effective, because now he's got somebody else out there that I'm like, hey, this guy's got it. He can do it for me. A Scott Vegeta, essentially. That's what you're looking for.
Linebackers that the Saints brought in that were very good in a rotational way. One guy that I never think gets enough love, I guess because those teams didn't finish with a ring, was Manti Te'o. I thought Te'o fit his role very well in New Orleans. Not as a starter by any means, but he fit a role really well. And I guess taking that to Bob's point is if you continue to do that with Stutzman, because Stutzman kind of played a similar role in a sense as almost like this third linebacker that would come in and get, 25% of the snaps. You're never going to figure out what you have if you do that to him. Which means you do have to eliminate the guy ahead of him to open up that role.
I thought Craig Robertson probably fits
Ooh,
that veteran guy.
That's
who
a good
was
one.
athletically limited, but he had the intelligence and understood the game in such a way he could at least put himself in position to make plays that you're not sacrificing, or he's not a liability on your defense. The longer he's out there, though, the sooner teams start to figure him out. But if you put him out there for, I don't know, in a game, 20 snaps, special teams, you got a good linebacker. You got a good linebacker who can do stuff for you. He's just not going to be that Pro Bowl every down linebacker that you're looking for. He's just a guy that you rotate in.
Let's talk about a really young secondary. Like I said, the secondary was weird because from right before the preseason or right going into training camp to week one, or I guess week two, really, completely different lineup than we expected because of Tyrann Mathieu' retirement, injuries to the position at safety, and then we had a whole ton of change at corner from the trade deadline a year ago to week one, week two, even a little bit past week one and week two of this year. You said goodbye to Marshawn Lattimore. You saw Kool-Aid McKinstry thrown into being corner one because Paulson Adebo also left in free agency. You saw the return of Isaac Iadom for a little bit as a starting corner. There was a lot going on with the secondary, and it took some time, and they had their ebbs and flows throughout the season, their highs and their lows. But ultimately, what's the one thing you want out of a young group? Growth. And I think it's safe to say that this secondary grew as a unit and had its moments, both good and bad, throughout the season. We'll start with Alan since I started with Bob last time. What impressed you the most out of this young group? Because I think there's a lot of different players you could point to having pretty successful seasons.
I mean, just off the top of my head, Quincy Riley and Jonas Sanker coming in and starting as rookies and not being complete disasters out there. I mean, it's a lot to ask a rookie on the back end of a defense to be in the right position and make the kind of plays, and going against NFL receivers that do double moves and can sell pass routes. Every route looks the same. You just really have to understand the film and read your keys properly. And I mean, they weren't just solid players. They were really good players. Quincy Riley pushed Isaac Giddum to the bench, which is a good thing because we got a 4th round pick out of it. We had that comp pick coming to us because we lost Paulson Adebo. And there was never pressure to say, oh God, Quincy Riley's getting eaten alive out there. We need to put a veteran corner in. Remember at training camp, all the conversation was about who was that cornerback that came from
Asante Samuel.
Asante Samuel. we were sitting there going, "Oh God, when's he going to be healthy enough? Can we sign this guy? Because we need a veteran back there." And very quietly, Quincy Riley just won that job with his play during the season, and people weren't screaming for Samuel or make a trade or get someone else out there. If anything, everybody was picking on poor Kool-Aid McKinstry, and he led the team in interceptions with 3. And I just that's what I was really impressed with. Those 2 guys. Jonas Sanker was out there. He got a pick. He didn't look like a lost puppy out there. And you start thinking about safeties from the Saints past, Josh Bullocks, to Bucky Jones, guys that were out there and we're like, oh my God, this guy is so bad. How I can't watch this. He can't find the ball. He misses tackles. He can't stop the run. No, you never said that about anything with Sanker. And I know, Bob, you and I both were like, man, why couldn't we get Xavier Watts? Why did we draft this guy? And he turned out to be a very, very solid pick. I'm not putting him in the Saints Pro Bowl. I'm not putting him in the list of the top 10 safeties all time for the Saints. But for rookies, those guys played extremely well. You just go through the list of the cornerbacks we've had in our history that, guys just despise. Ken Crawley, Johnny Patrick, what the hell is that? Corey White. I mean, to me, that's the competition he was going against. And he did, you got to put Marshawn Lattimore to another level. You got to put veterans like Jabari Greer to another level. You can't compare him to those kind of guys. You got to think about the other guys that we've had back there at corner, and that you have a rookie out there and he played like an experienced veteran and didn't cost you games. Did not make plays that you're like going, oh my God, he just gave this game away because the quarterback just picking on him constantly. And that's what I was most impressed with in that whole secondary was those 2 guys.
Yeah, and there were a lot of weeks I thought Quincy Riley was the best defensive back on the field. I don't like he gives too big a cushion a lot of times, and especially key situations. I expect that to be addressed this offseason. But and Alan, you just said it. There were a lot of times the quarterbacks would target Kool-Aid or Alontae Taylor in the slot and drove the ball away from Quincy Carter. And down the stretch, I thought Sanker, who I was applauding, through the early and mid weeks, for his instincts. He made a few bad reads, but you expect that out of a rookie. The weakest link in the secondary was the one reliable veteran was Justin Reed. And Reed played a lot better down the stretch. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of the weeks, Kool-Aid McKinstry, second-year player who like you said, Brendan, went from a number 3 corner to boom, Kool-Aid, you're now our number 1 corner, just like that. And then Quincy Riley, Jonas Sanker, we're talking about. Alontae Taylor is who he is. He is a versatile chess piece. He's going to make big plays. He's going to give up big plays. But I think that the secondary as a whole was the best and most consistent unit on this team throughout the year. They are the main reason why the Saints finished fourth, fifth against the pass. The pass rush was improved. Mainly Chase Young and Cam Jordan, and that helped. But those guys got some of their sacks because as coverage sacks. The secondary just were not giving up much at all. And even the completions that Riley and McKinstry did give up, a lot of them, they were in position and were just a millimeter off, or just turn your head a quarter second sooner. Get that hand up a half second sooner. So they are right. I've written this. both of them were right on the verge of having top tier cornerback numbers. So, yeah, and I've been asked a couple times by fans, by followers of both of our shows, hey, can Kool-Aid McKinstry and Quincy Riley be a number one and a number two cornerback, or do the Saints need to get one in the draft? I think no. I think you're looking at legitimate number one and number two cornerbacks. They both gave up some plays that young players are apt to do, but again, they were just a hair away from making plays on most of the passes against them, and that's probably the best thing that you can say about cornerbacks. Is that they were just a hair away, and as inexperienced as they both are, you would expect that they would learn from that, and they did. They all got better as the season progressed. And the fact that I hope that this team can re-sign Alontae Taylor. I think re-signing Julian Blackmon is huge, because A, that softens the blow if you do lose Taylor, and B, you're not, if Caleb, the Ohio State safety Caleb Downs, if he's on the board at 8, I grant you he's tough to pass up, but you can make a lot of logic for passing him up. Hey, we have Blackmon, we have Reed, we have Senker. They're all younger guys. Even Reed, I think, is only 30, 31. Kool-Aid, Riley, we've just seen the tip of the iceberg for what they can do. This is not, there's no spot in the secondary that is a legitimate need going into this offseason. And all these guys have had a year of working together now. So, there's not going to be any communication breakdowns. I love the potential of this entire group. I really do.
Well, one thing I wanted to throw in there real quick as you were talking about those guys, because I think they were the coaching was outstanding on these guys as well.
Yeah.
But think about pass interference. How many pass interference calls these guys draw? And then think about Paulson Adebo last year and how many PI calls he got. And this is not a knock on Paulson Adebo. This is a plus for the coaching, and also for these guys. They weren't drawing penalties that were costing them games. They had a lot of pass breakups without drawing pass interference. And I thought that was outstanding, because we think about the few times they did get flagged. How many times we're like, oh, man, that's a terrible call because of such and such. They were actually in the right position. They actually did all the right things. It's just you calling it on them because it looked like they had their hand on their back or whatever. I mean, to me, that's a huge difference from previous years, especially last year, where people just hated Paulson Adebo because he got so many PI calls, because it seemed like they were picking on him because they knew they could draw the pass interference.
Yeah, and I think what you said, Bob, too, about Riley and McKinstry being a potential 1-2 in the future, if you're able to sign Alontae Taylor back, it does allow you to revert back to him being kind of a chess piece or a joker type of role, because we've seen him be a really effective blitzer. We've seen him play a little bit of a hybrid corner safety. I mean, that's really what he was when the Saints drafted him, a guy who was a little bit of a tweener. And if you're able to have established young talent on the outside, you can move him around. You can confuse quarterbacks and show different looks. And I think that would ultimately help everybody involved. So we'll see what happens there. I guess we'll close with special teams. There's not a whole lot to talk about here. I think we're all on the same page when it comes to special teams. So we'll start with kicker. Right, we had the change during the year. Groupie gets let go. He ends up going to Indianapolis, where he actually had a good end of the season. Good for him. But the Saints give an opportunity to Charlie Smith, and Smith played pretty well. Not a whole lot of complaints. I mean, he missed some kicks, but he gave you a game winner against the Panthers. Gave you a little bit of confidence and consistency during stretches of the season. Did you guys see enough out of him to say that it is his job to lose going into training camp next year?
I think they need competition. I think they need to push him. The kicks that he missed, I felt like he doesn't get the curvature to the kick that most NFL kickers get. And it's difficult because I'm not a kicker, I'm not a special teams coach, but all his kicks that he missed, it was because the kick wouldn't turn back in once it left his foot. It's like he kicked it and it's going that direction. It's not moving. And, if he gets it on the right hash mark, he's going to get it through the goalpost. But if it's in I found the left hand hash mark is the one that gave him the most trouble. So if he's kicking from the left hash mark, it ain't turning back in. It's going left the whole way. And that's the kind of stuff he needs to improve on. But for the most part, I like the kid. I like what he does. I think he's got a great, strong leg. He just needs to work on his kicking from the left.
Yeah, I agree with that. He needs to put in a lot of work this offseason. And Brendan, I don't think that there's any doubt that Charlie Smith, is a strong front runner for the job. But I agree with Alan. You have to bring in some competition for him, in training camp. Make him earn it. We have seen kickers, Groupie being one of them, where you're basically handed the job, and I am not sure why, or if this was part of the reason why Groupie went into such a horrendous slump. But I think kicker is one position where unless you're Morton Anderson or Will Lutz reached this point, unless you're one of those guys, kicker seems to be a position where you can't let these guys think that they're safe for any 1 minute. For whatever reason, you have to provide competition, at least in training camp, for them. Maybe not make them feel like that there's breath on their neck the whole season. But you got to keep them on their, if you'll pardon the pun, you got to keep them on their toes, through training camp. So I do think we will see the Saints bring in a kicker, probably an unsigned rookie, maybe two of them, to provide some competition for Smith. But like Alan said, there's only one obvious fallback in Charlie Smith. Otherwise, he seemed unflappable. With the game on the line, he was very consistent on his kickoffs. That guy can be not corrupt Nazi MF or Roger Goodell obviously wants to do away with onside kicks, but with the way the bullshit onside kick rule is now, Smith is still a legitimate weapon with the spin that he puts on that ball. So there's a lot of traits that Charlie Smith can work, that the Saints can work with in the way of Charlie Smith, but he still needs to improve his game.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think, except I'd go the opposite. You said maybe some like rookie kickers. I think it'd be smart if the Saints brought a veteran kicker in to training camp to push him a little bit. Return man's going to be an interesting one because you got rid of Rashid Shaheed halfway through the season. That'll be, and look at what he's done in Seattle since he joined as a return man. That'll be a position that the Saints will address. I don't really want to examine what they had back there because I felt like week to week it was a little different on who was returning kicks. Punter is going to continue to be a carousel, though. Really, since Thomas Morstead left, there's not been any consistency because you had Gillikin for a little bit, and then Gillikin.
Sorry to interrupt you, Brendan. Yeah, there has been consistency. Alan has pointed it out. Well, Alan has pointed it out many times. It's consistently gotten worse.
That's true.
With each new punter, which is mind-boggling.
The mystery of the punter, I don't understand why it's so hard for the Saints to find a punter now. If I'm looking at getting a punter in free agency, I want to steal the punter from the Jets. Because
Yeah.
man, that dude was really good. I don't even know if he's a free agent or anything. His name is McNamara, but a guy that can just flip the field and pin teams inside the 10-yard line. That's all you need to do as a punter. You need to be able to punt and hit the coffin corner, flip the field. That's all we're asking out of you. The whole special teams unit's just been, offensive is the best way I can put it. The block punt was just the icing on the cake in the final game of the season. There's so many problems at special teams, and I blame the coaching all the way down to the players they have out there. Sean Payton made an effort towards the end of his tenure as Saints head coach. You look at 27, 2018, 2019, 2020 teams. An emphasis on getting players that are here just for special teams. And that's a JT Gray, Chris Banjo, Justin Hardy, those kind of guys. And the Saints just don't have that right now. You mentioned Rashid Shaheed before. Rashid Shaheed was brought in here as a special teams returner. We just tried to turn him into a receiver. And he's really just a special teams guy, it seems. Because that's all Seattle's doing with him. You're a fast guy who can run kickoffs back. That's what we need you to do. We don't need you to worry about being a receiver right now. And that's kind of what they need. They need a fast guy back there who can return kicks, and they just don't have that. Not right now. They just need to find that guy. So special teams needs a complete overhaul, and I would start with the coach.
Yeah.
Well, the Saints have done a good job of finding guys, right? Shaheed's a good example. Harris/Hardy before him was a good return man as well. I do want to go over this, and we're going to end on this note, whether it's a happy or sad note. That's up for you guys to debate. These are Kai Kroger's stats versus the rest of the league this year. You guys ready? Average punt, 44.8 yards per punt. That was 30th in the league. His long on the year, 61 yards, 29th in the league. Kroger had 18 punts inside the 20. That was tied for 27th in the league. What does that tell you?
You're not flipping the field. You're not putting in the coffin corner. You're not doing any of the things we just said. That as a kid,
I was really surprised. I mean, I guess in the NFL you don't see a punter carousel like you see kicking carousels, but I was really surprised that it was never brought up. Like, kicker has a few bad games. They try out some kickers. That's just usually how it works. Kai Kroger can't punt a ball further than 30 yards, and there was never hey, the Saints are working out punters this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It just shocked me.
They can't find him. I mean, I think if they could find one, they would have replaced him by now. That's why they keep going through new punters every year, and we're going to probably see another one again this year. I mean, the guy they had competing against him, that rookie from Alabama, he wasn't any better. In fact, he's not even in the league. It's like the mystery of finding a consistent punter who can flip the field and put the other team, pin them inside the 10 is just totally lost on them. They just don't know where to find that guy. And it's incredibly frustrating, especially when you have an offense like the Saints had at the beginning of the season that was struggling on third down. They could not convert third downs into first down. So you're punting a lot. My kingdom from Mark Royals right now. I mean, I just need Mitch Berger, somebody. There's got to be somebody out there. Find me a punter not named Russell Erxleben or Kyle Kroger, and I'll be happy.
Has it been long enough, and has there been enough punters in the interim where we can officially start calling this the curse of Morstead?
It sure as hell feels like it. It feels like that, when they
Can we
let
name
Morton
all of
Anderson
them?
go.
There's our challenge to close out.
Well, I mean, we got Gillikin, and then what seems like an endless line of Australian rules kickers.
Yeah, but I couldn't name any of them right now.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank too.
Who was the guy who got yelled at by the interim coach?
I can't remember.
Against the Giants.
Yeah, I can't think of names right now.
And he pulled off a couple decent fake punts. Just when it came to punting itself, that was a bit of an issue.
And I thought it was weird. The like you said, the Aussie punts were weird because we hadn't seen it in New Orleans, at least. It is a curse when we can't think of their names, and we talked about them for an entire
I can name the place kickers this team has had. That they cycled through. I cannot. That tells you how low I think. I thought I considered place kickers the lowest of the low.
Nope.
The punters are even lower.
Punters are people too. I say it a lot. Punters are people too.
Because here's how bad my PTSD is. As we started to enter the segment, I wanted to call him Kai Forbath.
Oh man!
So I can't even remember the current guy's name. So yeah, I think if the PTSD is that bad, we can officially call this the curse of Thomas Morstead.
I can't believe I'm doing this. I am Googling the Saints punters.
Punters over there.
Okay. Kroger, Hayball, Headley.
Yes.
Headley,
oh yeah, how could I forget Lamar Headley? Because I kept saying Headley Lamar in 2023. Gillikin, yeah. Then we have Morstead forever.
So Gillikin,
Steve Weatherford,
Headley.
Yeah, we have to go back to 2005 for Mitch Berger, Toby Goen, Tommy Barnhart. It seemed like for a little while we had legitimate. God, wait, they brought back Tommy Barnhart after Mark Royals. Yeah, it seemed like for a while there we had legitimate punters, but we are now hitting. Good Lord, we are hitting. Meekum era level of punter rotation because
I don't know if anything will beat the rotation of place kickers after Garrett Hartley, because that you mentioned Kai Forbath. I mean, you had Shane Graham send you to Shane Graham hit a kick. Can we name all the kickers between Hartley and Will Lutz? Like, that would be a challenge.
Martin Gramatica was one of them. I remember that. Yeah, we Sean would just get pissed at a kicker. You missed a kick, and then that John Monday, it was kicker Monday.
Well, the year Lutz was out with injury, which was his next to last year as a Saint. Yeah, Sean went through 4 kickers that year alone.
Yeah.
And the one guy, no, and I'm not going to try, but I remember the one guy was perfect on field goals, but missed like 4 extra points.
Oh God. Yeah, Sean, if you missed a kick in a game, it was guaranteed Monday. It was kicker Monday. There was going to be 4 or 5 kickers out there kicking. And you may not lose your job that day, but he sent a message. Those kickers were coming, and he had them on on speed dial, who he was going to bring in the following day. And yeah, I mean, just the kickers. Well, hell, the kickers we went through between John Carney leaving free agency because Sean got pissed because he thought he was old and couldn't kick off anymore. We had a bunch of kickers come in before Garrett Hartley. Then he got fed up with Garrett Hartley, especially after he missed that year because of the Adderall he took. That was in 2011. We had oh hell, what was his name?
John Casey.
He came from John Casey. Yeah. They called him at a parent-teacher conference to come in and come kick because he was already retired.
Yeah.
Called him to come in 2011. he kicks that, had a career year because that offense was so great. And then Hartley comes back, and then we start going in with and when you mentioned Kai Forbath, you reminded me of that battle they had between the good kicker and the kicker we ended up with. Dustin Hopkins was the good kicker,
Yes,
who ended up going to Washington, and we kept the bad
really
guy. Yeah, we kept the guy who didn't even last the season. And oh God, people hated Sean.
Do you guys
for that.
want this list? Because it's tough. By the way, John Casey, 63 of 63 on extra points that year. That's incredible.
Team record.
Yeah, team record. He set record for points for the team too. Most points.
So since 2009, you went Hartley, Carney, Casey, Hartley again, 12 and 13. Shane Graham in 13. Shane Graham in 14. Kai Forbath in 15. Zach Hawker in 15.
That's the guy.
Will Lutz, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Going into 21, you had Cody Parkey. You had Aldrich Rojas. You had Brett Maher.
The Cowboys
you had Brian
kicker.
Johnson. You had Will Lutz. And then Groupie, and then Charlie Smith. You said one of them was perfect, but not on extra points. Which one was that? Parkey.
Was that Brian Johnson? I think that was Brian Johnson.
Might have been because he
that was
he missed like
DC jokes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he
Brian
missed like
Johnson
2 extra
62%
points
on
against
extra
the.
points.
Yeah, 62% on extra points.
Yeah.
But
I don't think he might not have been perfect on field goals, but I know for a fact he missed more extra points than he did field goals.
No, you were right on the money. He was 8 of 8 on field goals in 4 games. And then you have Aldrich Rojas, who was 25% in 4 games, but was 13 of 13 on extra points. So, like, what in the kicker matrix Spider-Verse happened there? But anyway, that was our fun segment on who the hell has kicked and punted for the Saints over the last 15 years. With that, Bob, we'll close out the show. Starting with our guest, Alan, where can people find you on the World Wide Web?
Well, if I'm still on Facebook because I'm old. So you find me on Facebook, and I don't write very much for the Saints right now because the season's over with, and I don't talk much about that. But during the season, I do my good, bad, and uglies after every game. And then I'm on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Yelling at cattle, but I've been commenting a lot at the football history stuff because and I mentioned this Tuesday on Under the Dome. We're now in the weeks that NFC Championship games, Super Bowls, and things have been played, and talking about the impacts and the things about those games that just I just think is incredible. Like last week, we talked about the Giants 49ers NFC Championship game from 1990, played 91. Where Gary Reasons took that fake punt to help the 49ers win that game. And that the inspiration behind that play led to ambush for the Saints in the Super Bowl because it was all about stealing in possession. And that's why Sean went to Parcells to talk about that, because he was thinking about doing a fake punt like Gary Reasons did. They couldn't find a look they were looking for. Gary Reason's punt worked because a 49ers player did not know he was supposed to be on the field, so they only had 10 guys. And the hole that he ran through was where the guy that was not there, Harry Sidney's his name, Harry Sidney was not there, so he was able to get like a 60-yard run or something like that to set up the game-winning field goal. So the importance of a game like that impacting the Saints some 20-something years later, 24 years later, Sean Payton thought about that and that led to the origins of Ambush. But anyway, so those kind of things are happening right now. So I'm on X. You can find me on X. 79 Saints. It's under my name, so you'll see me out there.
Bob, you're writing still. You got some stuff that you're doing in the world. So where can people follow you if they don't already?
You guys can follow my written work over at the Saints Wire. That's a USA Today publication. I haven't been writing as much as I usually do on my season recaps, but I'm wrapping those up. Then I'm going to go into free agent previews, and if you follow me for the last few years, you know that I do crazy draft film work. For draft analysis pieces on individual players, particularly at positions I deem of Saints need. So that'll be coming up soon. Make sure to follow us over on Saints Wire. And above all, make sure you check out that Get Checked or Check Out website, tcynow.org, and book your reservations, book your cabins for the 2026 Get Checked or Check Out Foundation's annual cruise. Join myself, Delvin Breaux, Tyrone Hughes, Michael Lewis, Courtney Roby, and so many others, and their families, where we're all hanging out together March 26th through March 30th. You get to go to the Bahamas and benefit a great charity in the process. Book that cabin today. Reach out to me if you need any further details on it. But I want to see new faces this year. I'm excited to see new faces this year. So please do it. Yeah.
Bob's also excited to see returning faces. Just want to cover Bob there.
Again, yes.
Bob is excited to see you come back if you came last year. While I won't be on the cruise, I heavily support that you guys do go. However, I'm excited to say for any of you crazy football history people that will be making the trip to Canton, Ohio in August to see Drew Brees ultimately get enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I will be there. I have booked the trip. Thank you. Shout out to my dad. It's something we talked about at Christmas. I think it was something that was just kind of a joke, like, hey, we should go up and do that, huh? And then we ended up making it happen. So if you guys are going, please reach out. I'd love to meet up with you guys while we're in.
That is a plan for us as well. We are planning on going this August.
We will definitely link up there to all you fans there. Bob, I guess you're not that far.
I'm an hour and a half away, and I may not go. So that's what's weird.
No, you need to go. It's a Saturday. Just go.
I'm on the fence, so we shall see. If I'm in town, I could see myself probably going, but obviously I'll keep you guys in the loop. Would love to get together with you too. I loved getting together with you, Alan, and you, Brendan, too. And I know John Butler. I think you plan on going. So like I said, if I'm in town. It's an hour and a half. With the way I drive, significantly less than that. So I will probably go, but I will keep you all in the loop.
Yeah. Well,
you have a black Trans Am. You're planning on driving out there. Bandit.
That is on my travel playlist. The Smokey and the Bandit theme song. Both the Eastbound and Down and Westbound and Down.
There you go, Jerry Reed. All right.
While you drive about 1,000 miles an hour.
I was just going to say my playlist for heading to Canton is going to be the Power and the Glory of the music of NFL films. So,
Oh, yeah.
My kids will be, well, my son loves it, but our kids will be like, oh, my God, Dad.
My playlist is going to be whatever's on the radio and some coffee. That's it. We're leaving.
No.
We're making a whole trip of it. We're going up to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, all that good stuff. So we're making a whole trip out of the trip up to Canton / Cleveland.
Nice.
Yeah, it'll be fun. But guys, thanks so much for tuning in for the defensive season recap here on the Bayou under the Blitz Dome podcast. We'll be back next week, our normal time. Bob and I will start looking into free agency stuff, start looking into the draft stuff, because it's never too early to do that for us crazy people.
Hey, Senior Bowl's this weekend, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is getting close to that time already.
Yeah.
Guys, as I said at the beginning, please stay safe, be smart during this weird winter weather, and we look
I'll
forward
do one. I ain't doing both.
Okay, well, sorry. Okay, so Bob, if Bob's exempt from doing both, I guess you guys can pick one or the other. So please be safe. Maybe don't be smart, but be safe during this weird winter weather. And we look forward to seeing you back here for another edition of the Bayou Blitz podcast. Until then, find some peace, spread love, practice positivity. See you then.
Thank you.
Night.